Hello, everyone. Good morning from here in California. Good afternoon to those of you, well, pretty much east of here. We are so excited you're here today. We have been looking forward to this webinar for months now, and we're going to talk about a topic that I don't know if you've been hearing in the news lately. It's AI. I kid. We know it's everywhere. But today we're going to move out of the hype and into the reality of what you can be doing with AI and where you should get started. And before we dive in, I want to introduce our lead presenter today, someone who's been traveling all over the world this summer. We're so happy to see his face here on the webinar. Tigran Sloyan, Code Signal CEO. How are you doing, Tigran?
I'm doing great, Katie. Thank you for that intro. How are you? Excited for this?
I am. I am excited too. This is like Christmas morning for us. We get to like show cool stuff and talk about interesting things. Let's do it. Let's go ahead and get started. Tell us a little bit about AI and what it's doing for talent teams here.
AI. People are talking about AI so much these days. I'm glad we have a bunch of people joining the webinar. That means not everybody's sick of it. I think people are excited, confused, scared all at the same time. I think it doesn't help that there's too many AI hypers and doomers that are saying, AI is here to take everybody's jobs and AI is here to do scary things. I think the reality is that it's a powerful technology, and with any powerful technology, there is the upside and the downside of it. And I think our job is to make sure as a collective, it's not a foregone conclusion, none of it is, right? Is to help apply AI for good. And especially when it comes to talent acquisition, I think talking about AI in general is not very helpful. Talking about how is AI transforming TA? How is AI transforming hiring? And what do we do about it, right? But first, we can start with like high level stats of things that we've observed and things that we've seen before we get into how exactly do we apply this on our day-to-day job and in our companies. Now, the high level stats are saying that AI is here to transform the job market. And we've seen this with every powerful technology in the past. So you think about the cloud revolution created an entire category of jobs. 20 years ago, if you said a cloud architect, a AWS engineer, or a cloud engineer, people would be like, what are you talking about? We've never heard of those things. Now it's an entire job category. The internet before that has created web development, right? Like nowadays, from full stack backend engineers, those are all things that didn't exist only 25 years ago. Now, is it different this time? It's a little different this time because it's even more powerful than those technologies, and it's going to transform the market in even bigger ways than we've seen before. Now, first thing it's doing is creating new jobs. I'm sure everybody has already heard of prompt engineers. Everybody has probably already heard of applied AI scientists, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to see hundreds, if not thousands, of new type of jobs being created that we haven't seen before. The other thing that it's doing is transforming how we do our jobs because previous technologies have changed jobs a little bit, right? So when internet came along, we went from doing things in a physical world to doing things a little bit more digitally, right? My recruiting friends who've been doing recruiting for 30, 40 years will tell me, you know what? Recruiting hasn't changed much. We just went from, Yellow Pages and Craigslist to LinkedIn. Other than that, it's kind of sort of the same. We're seeing a similar shift, right? Like jobs that used to be about doing things on your own are starting to get an infusion of AI to give you more productivity, to hopefully give you more time back. So you can spend time either working on things you enjoy doing more or spending more time on your hobbies and with your family. Now,
Yeah.
with that, I want to make sure that we keep on going to get to the more fun stuff and not just get stuck on high level numbers. But sorry, you were going to say something, Katie. I cut you off.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I know, I'm sure we've all heard the quote at this point. It's like AI is not taking your job, but somebody using AI might. And I think that's very true. AI is here to help us, and it's something that we all need to learn to embrace. And we jokingly say it's like, oh, it's wonderful. We have so many interns at our disposal that we're able to use every day to help us get our job done.
Right.
Um, and yeah,
The only problem with those interns is they forget what you tell them the next day.
ugh, but their
It's like
memory
interns like
please
next day.
improve.
Yeah. Next day, it's like,
Seriously.
but we talked about this yesterday. It's like, oh, it's a new threat. Anyways, before we go too far on I assume almost everybody who's joined this webinar today has heard about us. But this is our brag slide, and our brag slide says we've done great things. So we've been fortunate to be able to do great things, thanks to many of our customers trusting us early on because Code Signal wasn't this Code Signal always. There used to be a time where many of these customers took a shot on us, where we were a tiny group of people trying to figure out how to discover and develop the skills that will shape the future. But since then, we've done 13 million skill evaluations and counting. We've cut our teeth in skill evaluations, which is what has really enabled us to build the suite of products that we've built today. We worked with some of the largest companies, both in tech and finance and beyond. And we've recently been recognized by Fast Company as one of the most innovative companies of 2025, as well as top ed tech companies by Time. That was 2 months ago.
Yeah. Just little accomplishments. We're a little bit proud of
Just,
that.
I told you, it's the brag slide. Well, going back to AI. So when we go and do events or when I'm speaking to a group of TA leaders, we usually do a live poll and ask them interesting questions. We actually have some of those coming up for you today. But this one we figured would share what we've seen over and over again instead of asking you to vote on these. But one of our favorite questions to ask in these events is, how are you using AI? And we see this picture consistently, right? And the picture says, we're trying to optimize some of our hiring and assessments. We're trying to improve some of our learning and upskilling. We're trying to figure out how to do this in workforce planning. But by far, the largest category is we're not sure. And in many cases, what I see speaking with leaders is there is a push from leadership, from the CEO in many cases, that says we have to embrace AI. There's a real FOMO that, look, if we don't, we're going to get left behind and our competitors are going to pace us. But when it comes to practical implementations of what do we do today, how do we actually use this to help the company to improve our jobs, the answer is we're not really sure. So today, Katie and I are going to walk you through some very specific, tangible examples of how many leading companies are partnering with us to leverage AI to transform talent acquisition.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about three specific categories. The categories are measured, exploring, and transforming. And the reason we've defined these categories is we've seen that most of our customers and most companies we work with fall into one of these categories. And I'll give a high-level overview of these categories and we can jump in, but we'll keep coming back to this idea that really companies fall into this spectrum. And this is expected, by the way, right? And again, this is not unique to AI. I gave the example of cloud. I mean, it's been 25 years. Most of the people on this call probably work at cloud first companies, but there's still a bunch of companies that are still going through digital transformation. So it's been 25 years since cloud has been a mainstream thing, and some companies are still going through this motion for cloud. I expect that to be kind of the same when it comes to AI, except with AI, there is a heightened pressure because companies and executives are feeling like if we do not take advantage of this sooner, we're not going to be able to be competitive. But when we look at the market today, we see companies fitting into each one of these three categories. The first one is the measure group. The measure group is not ready to use AI. In most cases, these are larger companies. These are companies that deal with very sensitive data. These are companies that have to deal with a lot of change, in many cases, a lot of bureaucracy in order to be able to introduce new type of technology in their work, which means these companies are trying to, as much as possible, control the use of AI. So for example, when it comes to hiring, I'm sure many of you have seen cheating and fraud go through the roof as AI-powered tools that help candidates cheat or act as a fraudulent candidate become more and more easier to use. And it's that category that's trying to understand how do we control this better. The next one is in the exploring category. Okay, well, how we want to use AI, we have approvals internally to use AI, but where do we apply these tools to be able to make the most out of it and bring value to the organization? And then the last category is transforming, which is the category that says we're not just going to introduce some AI tools, we're actually going to change our own behavior, our own skills. We're going to go become an AI first company. We're going to build our own understanding and stay on top of where AI is headed. And we have many more examples and stories and demos that cover each of these categories. And Katie and I are going to take you through them.
Yeah. And I am excited. I'm curious, among the audience we have here today, those three categories that Tigran just discussed, where do you think your organization falls? Are you more on the measured side where you're like, yeah, we're not quite ready yet? Are you just starting to explore how you might introduce AI into some of your processes? Or are you saying, we are going through AI transformation. This is a strategic initiative for us, and it's a bullet train we are grabbing onto. We'll give you all a minute to answer here. Tigran, should we place bets while people are answering?
I was going to
Like-
say we should totally place bets. Where's your bet?
I'm guessing most folks are going to be in exploring. What do you think?
Okay. Okay. I mean I think that's quite a reasonable guess that the largest category will be exploring. The big question is it going to be a normal distribution? So are we going to have like bell curve, or are we going to
Mhm.
have, very few in one category and many in the other one? What do you think?
Great question. I'm thinking somewhat Bell. Oh, here it is. I was wrong. Well, I was right about the first one. The
Well, I was
majority
gonna
were in
guess.
exploring,
I was
but
gonna guess.
yeah.
I was gonna guess that this is gonna be the picture mainly because, and I'm like, I can already see the numbers now. That's why it's easier to say. But I don't know if do you think participants can see the results, or is it just you and me?
Let's see. Yeah, I think we can. I'm almost positive where you're sharing them.
Okay,
Our
share.
tech team in the pack back, please be sure to share them with the audience if not. But we'll talk through them. 11% said you were in the measured category, 47% said you were in exploring, and 42 in transforming. So interesting that the split between exploring and transforming was pretty close, actually.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, it is very interesting, and it's probably a little bit influenced by the audience as well, because you can imagine that people who are in this audience and are joining a call about AI for talent teams are probably a little bit more in the camp of like, this is happening, and we're
Yeah.
exploring and transforming a little bit less in the measured camp. But I'm glad we have 11% in the measured camp because we are going to talk about what are organizations that are in the measured camp doing about this. And even if you're not in the measured camp, every other conversation I have with talent acquisition teams starts with fraud has gone crazy. And I think even if you're not in that camp, that topic is still going to be very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get to it. Let's talk about the recommendations for that we have for each of those categories, depending on where you fall. Tigran,
All
you want to
right.
take us through this?
Yes. Okay. So uh, the first one is safeguarding the interview process. As we said, it's become harder because previously, if you wanted to do something fishy in the hiring process, well, you either had to somehow find out what the interview questions were, or you had to, find a friend who was really good at it, can just help you do it. Doesn't sound that easy, right? Now that you have powerful AI models at your fingertips, this idea of like, how do I make sure that people are not actually studying this or using AI to answer all of my interview questions has become very top of mind. The other one is nowadays you get AI avatars. Nowadays you even get people pretending to be other people during the interview process, which makes it even harder to be able to accomplish this. Fake LinkedIn profiles just flooding the entire process. So that first category is okay, we got to safeguard the interview process. Okay. And we're not ready for people to be leveraging AI. So we want to make sure that everybody gets a fair shot at this, because if some candidates are using AI and others don't, you essentially give unfair advantage to a large number of people in your hiring process, and you end up hiring not the best candidates for the company. So that first category of companies we work with says, no matter what, help us ensure that AI cheating and fraud tools are not being used in the hiring process, because we're not ready. And we want to make sure we hire the best people who went through this process by themselves and they're who they say they are. The second category around exploring, the by far the biggest use case that we've seen has been on leveraging AI to improve the hiring process and get a better signal of scale. And in many cases, assess for things in a more automated way that you couldn't do before. Before Gen AI came along, uh, for example, if you wanted to see how good is somebody at communication, if you wanted to see how good is somebody at presentation skills, you had to usually get on a phone, talk to them, get on a Zoom, talk to them, get a panel of hiring managers and team members who, if they're hiring, they're already swamped with all the projects and things that they have to do, and have them listen through somebody going through their presentation or going through a role play. With the rise of generative AI, we're seeing a very, very fast adoption of what we call AI interviews, which you'll get to show today, Katie. And AI interviews allow for all kinds of things that were just simply not possible before. From doing role play style interviews, where the AI can, in a voice conversational role play with you as anything from, a candidate to if you're hiring for a recruiter role, to a procurement person negotiating pricing if you're hiring for a salesperson, to even an engineering manager having a design discussion with you, which creates a world in which interviewer capacity actually doesn't have to be a problem ever. And that's probably, no matter who you talk to, in the top 10 list of issues in talent organizations, which is we just don't have enough interviewer bandwidth.
Yeah.
We'll talk about more use cases, but then in the transforming category, it's all about upskilling and reskilling. Because for a long time, anytime there was a skills gap, executives came to talent acquisition and said, we need to hire 50 more people tomorrow, right? Because we have this massive project that's going to launch. We've got a skills gap, and I need you to do this fast. We need these hires yesterday. Okay. For the first time, actually, we're seeing a moment in which learning and development and talent acquisition are forced almost to work together more, because guess what? Gen AI skills just do not exist at all. Like everybody's trying to catch up to it. And as everybody's trying to catch up to it, just saying go hire people who have Gen AI skills isn't going to work. So you're seeing this transformation into, you know what? We have to take a balanced approach. There's some things we can't upskill our teams into, but there are many other things that it's impossible to hire externally. So we have to help our teams build those AI skills and be ready for the jobs of the future.
Yeah. And as you were saying before, this applies to every job. If you are a TA leader, you too need to be prepared to understand the AI skills that you need, and your teams need that as well. As a marketer, I need that too. It's coming for us, and it's exciting.
I guess I'm curious, Katie, what's the one thing that you had to learn that helps you do marketing better? Doesn't help you do an AI avatar yet, right? I bet you wish the AI would do the demos and would be as charming as Katie today.
Honestly, that would have given me a lot of sleep back. Demo nerves are very real. But honestly, I think the best thing that I have used AI for is content review. I love
Mhm.
asking AI to play the role of whoever we're trying to speak to in our marketing materials and give me feedback and help me improve and help me sharpen and iterate on my work. It's been super helpful. So.
Right? And before you had to jump through so many hoops to be able to do that.
Yeah,
And like
totally.
you said,
I may or may
applies
not
to every
have,
single category. So
yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say I may or may not have used AI to help me share disappointing news with my mother-in-law too. So, it just really runs the gambit.
it does run the gamut. All right, let's dive deeper into safeguarding the interview process. There's many, many layers to it. So let's move to that next slide so I can talk through some of the layers that are going on. Uh, the safeguarding interview process, again, is not new. It's just heightened with the rise of generative AI because people have been trying to cheat on assessments and cheat on interviews for a long time. And creating an unfair advantage and disqualifying other candidates who were a better fit for the role has always been a big no-no in our book, and helping create a more fair and equitable hiring process has always been our top priority. Now, over time now, our team has had to evolve to really, go from, hey, look, we have the table stakes functionality, which is you can't have just like one set of questions given to your candidates or a very small pool of interview questions given to your candidates. You need to have a pool that rotates, that's consistent, and consistently evaluates the same set of skills and capabilities. Or you need to be able to find and take down leaked questions. At some of our partner companies, we actually measured that when they rolled out a new set of assessment or interview questions, it was literally posted online within 3 hours. And the ability to actually, automatically detect those leaks and what we call leak sweep, as you can see at the bottom of this wall that I'm walking you through, has been a game changer because unlike in other places where that content would sit there for months and half of the candidates coming through would have basically studied it in advance, we make sure that all the content remains maintains its integrity. Now, on top of that, though, with the rise of Gen AI and the rise of fraud, we had to build many other layers that help us ensure the interview and assessment integrity. The first one was typing linearity, because similarity score and copy paste event tracking has always been there. But typing linearity has been a functionality that's been introduced literally as Gen AI was becoming mainstream, because it turns out, and we did this work with many of the leading AI labs, when you look at the end result of someone's work, it's almost impossible to differentiate it from what the human did and what AI did, because there were attempts to watermark it, and there were attempts to sort of say we can just analyze this text or analyze this code and say AI written or not. Some companies still claim to do that. The research says it cannot be done. It's similar enough where you cannot safely say we just analyzed someone's result and said the end state and said they used AI to do this. However, when you look at the process of them going through it, you can actually tell, because humans have a very messy thought process. And when we are either having Gen AI do it for us, or we're just copying what Gen AI has done, that messy process becomes very clean and buttoned up with a bow on it process. And that allows us to detect that, understand that, and combine that with all other vectors in order to guarantee integrity in the process. Then you get into the fraud component of it, which is that people have been using different identities and fake LinkedIn profiles to get into companies for various reasons. I mean, there is like several high-profile articles lately talking about this. Some of them includes actually having foreign spies get into companies to steal confidential information. Others are more about just collecting paychecks over and over again from various companies under false identities. And in order to help our customers combat that, we actually added many different layers, including ID verification, human and AI powered proctoring that just automatically is able to analyze and identify real humans from AI avatars, to many other layers and components that combined help our customers who are in the measured group want to make sure that candidates are not using AI either to cheat the assessments or act as somebody that they're not, really guarantee integrity in the hiring process.
Yeah, and it's wild. I've heard a couple stories recently of people going viral for working 10 jobs at a time and just continually
Mhm.
applying using AI. And it's definitely a different world that we're living in. And AI has changed the game for candidates as well as companies. And it is so critical that you make sure that your candidates are who you think they are before you hire them, for sure.
Exactly.
Awesome. So that covers our safeguarding the interview process recommendation. Let's switch gears here. For those of you that are in the exploring camp, let's talk a little bit about how you can use AI to scale, to save time, and to get a stronger signal of skill. But before we dive in, I'm curious, how many of you are currently using AI in your hiring process? Simple yes or no here. We have a 50-50 chance of being right on this one, Tigran. I'm going to say majority are doing something today. They're a yes. What do you think?
Majority are yes. I think it's going to be actually 50-50, like
Ah,
right smack in the middle. Let's
well,
see.
you did nail the split last time, and I did not, so we'll
Well,
see.
I kind of did after the fact, so it doesn't count. I should have said it before we looked at the
Yeah, that's
results.
right. Maybe I should just postpone and just keep asking questions until I see the results, and then I'll say, I did think that it was going to be split that way.
I knew exactly. Nailed it to
Yeah,
the second rounding points, right?
yeah, totally. Let's see.
Well,
Drum roll.
let's see. Drum roll. Oh, wow,
Ah,
you were right. You were right.
79% currently using A. That's really exciting. And I'm curious to hear what people are doing, um, and what challenges they're running into too. So if you'd like to share in the chat, we welcome that. But we'll continue
And
on with the presentation because we want to get you to some exciting demos too. Tigran, you want to chat us through how we think about AI, how AI can help you?
yes, so moving into the second category, which is on the exploring side of the equation, there is many different ways, but the ones that we've seen be most effective and prominent is these three categories. First one being the scaling the screening process. I was actually again in the camp of like, I don't think this is going to take off. But when we launched our AI interviews, we thought that it would be primarily used to essentially um, gain more interviewer capacity and not have as many hiring managers and as many subject matter experts be in the interview process and really give you unlimited interviewing time, which is that second use case, right? My bet was that that's going to be by far the most popular use case with leveraging AI in the interview process. What turned out is that the scaling screening process has become just as popular. And what do we mean by scaling the screening process? It turns out recruiters on a day-to-day basis get on so many candidate calls where they're like, why am I on this call? Like this person clearly misrepresented their application in this process. And within the first 10 minutes, you know that that's not a candidate that is going to move through to the process. So what we've seen is a lot of recruiters and recruiting organizations saying, you know what, we actually want AIs to do some of our recruiter screens so that we as recruiters can spend time with candidates that are actually um, more qualified, right? Vetted already that I know there's a shot here versus I'm sitting here and wasting my time. One of the reasons that I thought scale screening wouldn't be as popular of a use case as it has become is I wasn't sure how candidates would react to it. But again, I've been proven wrong that candidates are actually very pleasantly surprised. In fact, companies want to use it because they believe that rightfully, as we've seen, that it creates a better brand. It communicates that we're embracing AI and voice AI technology, as you will show, is very cool. I think first time people talk to an AI in an interview process, they're like, "Oh my God, this is advanced so much. I didn't realize this." So, anyways, the scaling the top of the funnel conversations through AI interviews and then saving more interviewer time, either through just the types of assessments that weren't possible before, or just through AI conversations, has been big. And then getting a stronger signal of skill has been the other major category because previously, there were some things that you could automate in the skill evaluation process, such as did they, you know, write code accurately, or did they, you know, respond to this multiple choice question accurately? But you couldn't do the more subjective ones, right? You can, if you wanted to see, well, how is their thought process? Were they almost there? You had to go find a hiring manager who would have to come review the submission and say yes or no. Gen AI has changed that, right? Now AI can actually do a better job, a more consistent job at evaluating the in-between zone and simulating things that we couldn't simulate before, giving you a much broader spectrum of things that you can evaluate to get a much stronger signal of skill.
Yeah. And to your point earlier, Tigran, I was actually just looking at some of our data earlier this week, and we see that 83% of candidates actually say they have a really positive experience in an AI interview. I thought that was interesting and promising.
I know. Yeah. At every comment I've seen, there was actually a funny one where it was role play. I don't know how much I can share, but it was a role play AI interview, and it was simulating the job itself that had to do with sales. I'm just not going to get specific because if I get specific to what kind of sales, there's like three companies that do that. It will be obvious who it is. So it's simulating the actual sale process of what that company would be selling. And the feedback from the candidate was like, if I had 5 more minutes with AI, I was going to have the order in hand, which I found hilarious because they were like, okay, the sale is almost done. Just give me 5 more minutes. AI is ready to buy.
I love it. The candidate's like, I almost had him. I almost had that contract signed.
Exactly. All right, well, let's go talk about the simulation piece a little bit because I think, even if you're a Code Signal customer, you might not have paused and realized how everything we do revolves around the structure. But everything that we've built at Code Signal in our Hire suite, in our Learn suite, revolves around this idea that if you truly want to understand skills, or if you want to teach skills, right? If you want to discover and develop the skills that will shape the future, you need to, as closely as possible, simulate what people are doing on the day-to-day job. Because if I'm trying to assess your skills, and if I give you either multiple choice questions or some brain teasers, I'm assessing your ability to answer multiple choice questions or handle brain teasers, which is not what most people do in their day-to-day job. What most people do in their day-to-day job is if you're an engineer, you write code in an IDE. If you're in a customer-facing role like a CSM or salesperson or support person, you're having conversations either verbal or written with customers. If you're in more creative roles, maybe in product management or design, you're probably working with whiteboards. If you're in finance, you're likely working with spreadsheets. So the first thing that we always start with is how are we going to create a hyper-realistic job simulation that is going to allow our customers, our candidates, our learners to really demonstrate their skills or practice their skills. Next layer from there is, okay, we've got the simulation, but we need content that feeds into that, right? And that content has to be real world like. And if it's for coding, then it needs to simulate a realistic environment in which people are creating products. If it's for conversations, like we said, you want to get as realistic as possible to the point where they can feel like they're in the job demonstrating what they can do or practicing what they can do if it's for our Learn suite. And then all of those things together are packaged into the third layer, which is everything that creates the beautiful, enjoyable user experience. From having our AI mascot Cosmo help you in either learning or advancing your skills by being your AI tutor, to helping people demonstrate their ability in an AI assisted way. Because believe it or not, one of the other big use cases is that companies are saying, you know what, we want our candidates to know how to leverage AI to be more productive on the job. So we want to hire people who can already do this, which means that in that user experience layer, we're started bringing Cosmo into that experience so that Cosmo can actually help you as an assistant so that you don't have to tell candidates, hey, you can use AI. Because if you just say you can use AI, they're going to go use who knows what. And that's actually going to create an unfair experience because some of them will have access to the latest and greatest and have paid for it, and others might not. And if you want to create that consistency and also have visibility of how they're leveraging AI to do this, you actually want it fully integrated, which is one of the other demos. I keep hyping your demos, Katie. I think everybody is almost ready to go into that.
Yeah. Should we get into it? Let's get into
Let's
it.
do it. Let's do it.
All right. So let's switch gears here. I was looking through the chat before this and noticed that a lot of you are using AI for content related things. So whether that's drafting interview questions or helping take notes and summarize actions, and that's awesome. That's such a great use of AI. We're going to look at things a little bit different today. So hopefully give you some new ideas here. And the first example I want to show you is what Tigran was talking about when it comes to scaling hiring with AI. What we have here is an example of how you can use AI for a first round recruiter phone screen. And as Tigran mentioned, how frustrating is it when your recruiters are spending so much time on unqualified candidates? And I hear this problem is being exacerbated right now because it's relatively easy to go on ChatGPT and make a really polished resume and apply to 87 companies in an hour. So your pipelines are bigger than ever, and you want to evaluate as many candidates as possible, but there simply isn't enough time, and you can't afford to waste time on candidates that maybe are misrepresenting their skills. So let's take a look at example where Milo here is going to be playing the role of our recruiter, doing a recruiter phone screen with a product manager candidate. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to your AI interview. How are you feeling?
Hi, Milo. I'm excited. How are you?
I'm here and ready to get started. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll briefly go over the PM role, discuss your background, and explore your relevant experiences. Shall we begin?
Yeah, let's do it.
You're interviewing for a senior product manager role. At Code Signal, we're an AI native skills platform on a mission to discover and develop the skills that will shape the future. Have you heard of our mission before?
Yeah, and actually, Milo, it's one of the things that drew me to apply for this role. I think it's really interesting technology you're working on, and I really believe in your mission.
As a senior product manager, you'll own and drive the product vision, strategy, and roadmap for key areas of our platform. Does this align with what you're looking for?
Yeah, Milo, actually, I'm looking for my next role to be something where I can feel real ownership. I can drive projects forward, manage it from end to end, of course, partnering with stakeholders along the way. But this sounds exactly like what I'm looking for.
Thanks for sharing that. So, what's motivating you to explore new opportunities right now?
Now, for the sake of time, I'm going to end this conversation. I know it's thrilling to watch me go back and forth with Milo, but I think you get the idea of what's happening here. And what's really interesting is that we are able to actually customize the Milo experience. So if you want Milo to share a little bit more about your company, Milo shared a little bit about Code Signal's mission, we can make this experience really unique to your company and your culture. And the other great thing about Milo is that he's going to dig in and ask those second and third layer questions to surface the insights that you really need from these initial screenings. Tigran, what do you think?
It's so funny that the some of the most interesting things that I've seen is even within companies who are leveraging this very actively today, you have a spectrum of how forthcoming and how reserved people want Milo to be. Obviously, this demo is using one of our AI interviews for a PM role where we make Milo be like balanced enough where he's sort of forthcoming but not too much. You can see that, like, for example, he didn't actually comment on your excitement about the mission because we don't want the AI to give like positive indications, right? Because sometimes if the AI goes like, "Oh, that's amazing, I love that you're like," which humans do all the time, but it actually can create an issue down the line where people say, "But my interviewer said like they were really loving how excited I am about this. How come I didn't get the job?" And then we've seen customers who are like, you know what, we want Milo to be the warmest, kindest, and the happiest puppy possible. And then Milo goes on the like, I love that. I'm just like so excited about you being on this ride with us. And the spectrum varies, and it mostly depends on the legal and regulatory implications of how regulated the field you're in.
Yeah, that's a great point. Milo can range from poker face to Ted Lasso, depending on what you're looking for.
Exactly. I love that. I should have used that poker face to Ted Lasso.
Can you tell I just rewatched Ted Lasso? Great show. All right. So let's go ahead and switch gears here. So this is our example where we're talking about scaling your hiring process. Let's talk a little bit more about how you can save time. Now, I know right now a lot of you, whether you're in TA or whether you're a hiring manager, you're spending a lot of time digging into perhaps candidate take-home assignments, perhaps interviews themselves, perhaps digging through all sorts of submissions, just trying to understand where a candidate's skill lies. And for a long time at CodeSignal, what we've been able to do is give you scoring that gives you an overall view of where your candidate's strengths are in this given assessment area. But thanks to AI, we're actually able to give you way more nuance now and drill down into where candidates were strong and where candidates have room to improve. So in this example, we are looking at an assessment for actually a customer success or a customer support role. And Tigran, you killed it. Look at that, 528.
Look at that.
That's an
Look at that.
excellent score. You did a great job on writing clearly, etc. But we want to know a little bit more about maybe where you had some room to improve. Let's go ahead and dig into this building trust question. And what we offer here are some AI score insights. And this is going to summarize, oh, you did a great job showing empathy and urgency in this scenario, but you could have asked some more probing questions. Did a decent job building trust, but you didn't really address the skepticism that the AI showed in this conversation. So what this does is it recaps exactly what happened and tells you where the candidate was strong, where the candidate has room to improve, so that you're not just making decisions and looking at things based on a single numeric value, but you're able to get a real glance at the candidate and what they did and where they're strong without having to spend hours and hours and hours reviewing things and looking at it against a rubric. AI is able to quickly summarize that. And what we've heard is that this is especially helpful for those recruiting teams who maybe don't have the domain expertise of the hiring teams and could review something, but might miss out on some of the nuances that those that are super experienced in the field would catch up on. So this AI score insights really helps TA teams be a better partner in the recruiting process because they're able to understand where a candidate is strong and make recommendations accordingly.
And this is an example of like many teams historically did have like this kinds of like hands-on exercises, but the process would involve email them some sort of a doc or a zip folder, have them do it, submit it back, chase down a hiring manager, have them review it, have the candidate wait there for a long time, hope that they're actually following the rubric and having consistency, and the entire thing taking weeks and a lot of time. In this case, as soon as I was done, like the results and the scores and the insights were ready to go, as if you had a, very uh, proactive hiring manager sitting there scoring it for you as soon as the candidate was done.
Yeah, a speed reader, someone who's able to, like you, Tigran, actually, fun fact about Tigran, listen to audio things on approximately 32x speed and then quickly summarize the notes. That's what AI is doing for us here.
Only 3x so far, not 32 yet, but I'm working
Okay.
on it.
Yeah, you'll build your way up there soon, I'm sure. All right, and now let's get into some other fun stuff. So Tigran talked a lot about how simulations are really important for delivering a strong signal of skill. And today I want to show you a couple different examples of simulations we can do with CodeSignal. And to start, we're going to look at a conversation. So we've already seen an AI conversation in the context of that recruiter phone screen, but we can put AI conversations into a variety of scenarios. So in this example, we are going to be having a customer success and customer support conversation. It's a mock call essentially with Ryan, who is an angry customer writing into a company called Ticket Ease, and he's looking for a resolution to his problem. Let's see how I can handle this conversation now.
Hey, I really don't have time for this. Can you solve our problems, or are we going to have to go to a different vendor?
Hi, Ryan. I hear your frustration. I'm so sorry to hear about this, but we are absolutely going to solve your problems today. And I'd like to start by really apologizing for the impact that this product malfunction has had on your business. And I want to assure you that we have our escalation support team working on a resolution right now. In this conversation, I want to talk about how we can best move forward here.
Good, then let's get specific. I need to know what great isn't an answer. What I need to hear is what you're actually doing about these lost tickets. Give me something concrete. Root cause, timeline, and how you're making sure we don't lose more tickets starting today. Otherwise, there's no point in dragging this out.
Yeah, and Ryan, I want to make sure that we resolve your issue as quickly as possible. Can you please tell me a little bit more about when this problem started?
Are you kidding me? Do you think I have nothing better to do than sit here and talk to you? This has been going on for months. My team logs in, tickets are gone, customers get ignored, and we look like fools. I should not be wasting my time explaining basic history. Don't you have logs?
I'm going to end the conversation there for the sake of time, but also, ooh, Ryan makes me sweat. Ryan is a tough cookie, which to Tigran's point earlier is another great example of, in this case, we said we want Ryan to be really tough. We want Ryan to be a tough nut to crack. He is going to make the person sweat here. This is going to be a role play of how they really manage pressure well. We can, of course, calibrate Ryan or whatever AI partner or company is working with to be a little softer. But what Ryan was doing here was he was applying pressure in a realistic setting. Sometimes in a support role, you're going to deal with angry customers calling in. And Ryan is also having a realistic conversation. As I said things like, "Can you tell me when this started?" Ryan responded, based on what I said. This is not a pre-scripted conversation. Ryan is responding to my conversation, and we're having that dynamic back and forth together. And what CodeSignal is able to do on the background is we're able to evaluate this conversation based on the core skills that we're looking for the candidate to be demonstrating. So things like building trust and conflict resolution. And we're able to analyze their conversation and responses and say, based on this rubric we have, how well did they do? Were they stellar at this, or do they have room for improvement? Tigran, what do you think about Ryan?
Ryan is so much fun, but it's better to kind of get that kind of pressure and get that kind of stress from an AI than from a real human, because at least here you can, A, in a hiring process, demonstrate that you're able to handle it before they put you in the job and then realize you couldn't.
Yeah.
Or B, if it's in a learning context, actually help you practice, like how do you de-escalate the situation? Because if you kept talking to Ryan, if you actually show understanding, even though he's clearly frustrated, if you show understanding and if you bear with him, he softens up. But most people panic as soon as somebody is just like as direct as Ryan was here. And I feel like everybody has like this fun moment of like, wow, AI isn't always nice. You can actually get AI to be pretty mean, which is which is interesting. But that's
Yeah.
if you're simulating real world, that's what you have to do.
Yeah. But I always say please and thank you to AI. Isn't it always going to be nice to me? No, we can make
Right?
AI serve the role that you need.
Yep.
Awesome. So switching gears here a little bit, another simulation that we have been working on is actually with spreadsheets. And this one, my internet is a little slow, so it's taking a minute to load here. But what we're able to do is not just evaluate hard numerical values that are submitted via a spreadsheet, but we're able to get a little bit more nuance in here and understand if candidates are able to analyze data effectively. So in this example, candidates are being asked to actually build charts and graphs that summarize data sets. And we're able to say, okay, well, did they, first of all, build the chart and graph? Second of all, did they use the right data when they were doing it? Oh, my coffee tribute to the demo gods is making my internet slow. Let me try loading this one more time for you. But what's really unique about this then is we can, of course, use AI to check that. And AI is able to say, yes, this used the appropriate data set. Yes, this chart was accurate and a good representation of the data. And the candidates are able to work in the spreadsheet as they would any other Google sheet. They have full functionality here. So they're not spending time trying to figure out how they can build the chart in their assessment. They're actually just working like they do on the job, which is great. And this has been a really important functionality and an important simulation for roles like business analysts or financial analysts or accountants and things like that. Pretty
Yep.
cool.
And again, like before, it's the people have been trying to do this effectively for a long time. Like send a spreadsheet, ask to build a model, wait for them to come back, and then spend hours manually checking. Now it all happens in minutes in a far more consistent and realistic environment that is same for all candidates, thanks to AI.
Yeah. Thanks, AI. Um, Similarly, writing has had the same challenge in the past. You can ask candidates to do a take-home assignment that involves writing, and they can write something up, they can submit it, but your team is going to need to spend hours potentially reviewing those submissions, scoring them against a rubric, and really diving in detail. And what we're able to do with AI is say, hey, yeah, complete this written assignment here. So in this case, we're looking at something that might be used for a product manager. And this is a technical proposal and a PRD that they are working on. Candidates are able to submit this writing just as they normally would. Hello, not realistic, but you can see I'm just typing like normal in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to give AI a strict rubric that they're going to follow to evaluate the submission and give you a first pass at what they think was good and where the candidate's skills lie. And then, of course, you can dive in deeper and zero in on areas that you want to look at specifically, but not have to spend hours and hours doing that initial first pass and trying to calibrate the scores consistently across all reviewers. All right, and our last simulation we're going to look at today is one that is highly requested. We know that about 80% of engineers are actually coding with an AI co-pilot. And so our customers, I know, have been eager to simulate that experience, and we're able to do that in CodeSignal. So Tigran talked about Cosmo, our AI assistant that's fully embedded in CodeSignal, and Cosmo, I'm biased, he's really cute. He is a little space corgi, but he is a powerful space corgi at that. Cosmo can serve as a full coding co-pilot, helping your candidates code and build solutions. But also, if your organization maybe doesn't want to give the candidates the keys to the castle, they want to say, yeah, we don't want candidates to use AI to code, but we really want to make sure they don't have to leave the platform to look up things like syntax and documentation. We can scale back the assistance that Cosmo provides to match that level as well. So here we're looking at a replay of a real candidate submission that was using Cosmo to help them build a solution. And what we're going to see is that they're going to ask Cosmo questions that range from like, okay, how do I get started? Should pop up in a second here. And Cosmo is going to respond with some direction, and it's also going to help them with actual code that they can build into the solution. They're able to double down and ask more questions about the code. They're able to ask Cosmo to build out additional code and really help them build out their solution quickly and effectively. And what's important here to note is that what we're not just doing is applying Cosmo to existing questions that were in our question bank, because quite frankly, that might be a little bit easy for Cosmo. If you are looking at a straightforward question, what you want to do is make sure that the candidates are doing things on their own. It's like the example we give is if you give somebody a math test and they are, expected to do mental math, and then you give them a calculator and you give them the same math test, well, there's different expectations there. So what we're actually doing here is we are leveling up our questions to be more realistic for AI assistance so that candidates can show you the true ability of what they can accomplish in an hour, however long they're spending on the assessment, with the assistance of Cosmo. Pretty cool, huh, Tigran?
It's amazing. And the job that has changed the most when you think about all jobs are changing, but the one that has already like significantly changed since 2 years ago is engineering and software development. And in engineering and software development, almost every developer these days actually leverages AI as part of their work. And this is, again, in the direction of simulating what you do on the job for companies that are ready and do allow their candidates, their engineers on the job to use it to simulate that exact environment to allow them to cooperate, collaborate with AI like they would on the job to get something hyper realistic done instead of maybe a toy problem that
Yeah.
they could do by themselves in 30 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
So that
right.
wraps up our exploring category, some fun demos there. Let's go ahead and talk about if your org is transforming, how can you upskill yourself and your team? But one more poll before we dive in. I'm just curious, for those of you personally on this call, how would you rate your personal AI literacy today? I've taken a
All right,
couple
we've
signal.
got to do bets here since we've been
Yeah,
doing bets. What do you think is going to be the highest?
2 is calling to me.
Oh, I think it's going to be 3 or 4.
I hope
Most likely
I hope
3.
it's a little higher. Maybe it's because I'm a harsh critic for myself, and I didn't feel like I was a 3 or 4 until I took a couple courses. Now I feel like I'm a 3 or 4.
Feel like you're almost a 5. Come on, you're being modest.
You're right. You're right. I am being
Yeah.
modest.
You were just talking about using AI to talk to your mother-in-law. I mean, come on, that's next level.
Yeah, the use cases are truly endless, let's be honest.
All right, what do
Let's
we
see.
get?
3. Right.
Hey, I
And
was
there's our
right.
nice bell curve distribution too.
Right?
Awesome.
It's like a perfect bell curve. Uh, Okay. All right. Well, to make sure we don't run out of time, let me quickly walk you through that last category, which is transforming. To transform with AI, you need to stay at the cutting edge and build your own skills. And as many of you might know, CodeSignal has a thriving Learn Suite that helps close skills gaps. And the one category in our Learn Suite that has been most popular is our Gen AI Skills Academy. Many of our customers have been eagerly implementing our Gen AI Skills Academy in 3 specific tracks. Track 1 is applicable to everybody in the company because it's all about using AI efficiently in your job. And the main goal here is to ensure that you understand what AI can do, where the limitations lie, and where the legal implications are. Because if you don't understand all of those pieces, it's hard to be really effective with AI in your job. The second and third tracks relate more to technical roles. But the reason you have 2 separate tracks is there's one category of skills which is about leveraging AI in integrating it into the products. So not actually creating AI yourself, but rather taking a large language model or an image creation model and integrating it effectively into your existing products or building on top of them. And then there's track 3, which is for companies that are actually trying to push the envelope of research in AI. All 3 tracks have been very popular, and as organizations look to close those skills gaps internally, it creates this balance between relying on talent acquisition to drive that, as well as upskilling the internal teams.
Awesome. And as much as I would love to give you all another demo here, we're going to do one better. You can actually try this out for yourself and try a sample course that might be included in one of your Generative AI Skills Academy tracks. And check the chat. We just sent out the link, so you can click through that link and try this out for free. And we'll be happy to follow up with this as well. If you lose the link after this session, no worries. We got you covered. Awesome. So, to quickly wrap up here, today we talked about where you should start with AI and where you can go next. And we looked at it through the lens of the 3 buckets of organizations that we typically see. For those that are more measured and taking a more reserved approach with AI, we want to help you safeguard your interview process. That's where you should be focusing your time right now. For those of you that are exploring, you should be looking to scale to save time and to get a stronger signal of skill. And for those of you that are transforming, we want to help you upskill yourself and your team. And of course, your CodeSignal partners are here for you as you get going on that. But we also have another exciting opportunity for you to learn more about this. Back by popular demand, we are going to be hosting another CodeSignal Beyond event. So mark your calendar. It's going to be November 6th in San Francisco. We'd love to see you there. We're going to be talking more about AI. We're going to be talking about compliance in AI. We're going to be bringing your peers to present and share how they are using AI in their hiring process and the results that they've seen. So we are sharing another link in the chat right now. The registration is not open quite yet, but if you want to be first to know when it does open, go ahead and fill out the form that we just shared, and we will make sure that you get an email as soon as it opens. Spots are limited, so it's great to reserve your interest now and be part of the first access group. So
I'm
with that,
excited about Beyond.
me too.
It's been a year. It's time.
I know. I know. It's going to be good to see everybody's faces in real life too. So many awesome stories to tell. So we have 1 minute left. I know that you all have some questions, and so we are going to be following up async here. We will respond to you if you submitted a question offline. And do feel free to email us too if anything pops up afterwards. You can email me. My email is katie.fairbank@codesignal.com, and we will make sure we get your questions answered. But Tigran, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. And I'm really, really excited and optimistic about the future for TA using AI.
Thank you. Likewise, I think the TA community has always been amazing. And I think if anybody can figure out how to apply AI responsibly to the future, it's us, and we carry the responsibility to do it together. So I'm excited, and thank you for having me and for the great demos. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.